a wiring problem in one instance. You have somebody leaving a naked fire in one instance, and several other multiple reasons that occasion the fire.
So if you know somebody left,
Then you have
fire,
a difficulty.
Then you ask yourself, how do you ensure that in the markets people do not sleep there and turn the markets into their homes?
Well, they probably haven't turned it to their homes, but they cook there before they leave for home.
Some sleep there.
Well, some sleep there, but is it the case that those who sleep there who are the ones who leave the fire, before they leave or before they go to bed? It's a difficult one. I guess that we need to apply a multiple response to the issue of the fires. Education, maybe, which ought to inform people as to the do's and don'ts. Because obviously, if you have people living outside the central business district and they have a family to fend for, you can't ask them not to cook, to take the food home, to feed their families. And so you have a difficulty as regards whether you ought to put an outright ban on cooking in the markets. How are you going to enforce it? Becomes a problem.
Okay.
So then you probably have to then begin to educate people that if they cook, they ought to make sure that they put the fire out completely before they leave. There may be instances where somebody is in a hurry to catch some car home that he wouldn't wait to be sure whether the fire has been put out completely before he leaves. Are you going to engage inspectors to go out after the markets are closed to make sure that there's no fire that has been left?
What do you propose be done?
Could be a solution. But of course, if the next incident is not as a result of fire but electricity, then really whether you have the inspectors would only reduce the risk of having fires that are as a result of abandoning of coal ports and stuff like that. But I guess that it's really scattered and many. I recall 4 years ago there was a fire in Second D market. Next moment you hear of Kumasi. Next moment you hear Cantonment. You hear the Rawlins 31st Zimba market. You hear of Medina market fire. You hear of all sorts of other places. And question is, are the causes the same or they are varied? And so are you going to apply a situation where we would get into a situation where you're going to have uniform markets, which in itself poses its own difficulty? And so I guess that we need to take a critical look at it and see what it is that the various causes are and what can be done to, as it were, ensure that those causes do not lead to the kind of situations that we find ourselves in.
All right, thank you. Before I get to Raymond, let me just say that we're expecting a representative from the NDC also. So once we get a representative, he or she will join the conversation. Yes, Raymond. So we've been talking about this. We're talking about this during news review. The fact that this wouldn't be the first time we've seen these fires. So why aren't we able to deal with it?
In 2015, there was a study by Dr. Ismail Yamsen, that wonderful academic, who used to be at the public health department at the University of Ghana. I think it's now a full-fledged, what they call college on its own. He studied fire outbreaks since 1970 and concluded that, on the average, when you look at the numbers, there is a fire outbreak in the country every 2 hours. Every 2 hours. He also narrowed it down, and there have been subsequent studies that 70% of the fire outbreaks are either in the homes of people or in the markets. Now, let's dwell on the market, since that's the most important part here. In the markets, there's been studies that suggested that 75% of the causes of the fires in the markets are purely electrical wiring problems. Now, we do remember last 2 years when he took over the Ghana Standards Authority, the vociferous head who was actually consistently coming here stated clearly that 80% of the electrical wires in this country that we use in wiring our homes are substandard, not fit for purpose, and still being used. This coupled with the fact that there are other factors. So, what I've just said, if 75% of all the causes of market fires are due to electrical wiring problems, if you fix that problem, what have you done? You fix 75% of the problem. I admit that government, just a month ago, after Odona, made a promise that there's going to be a general rewiring of markets across the country because they were reminded by these statistics. I don't know whether they've started it, but this is another reminder that we need to do that as quickly as possible. The other problem is the standards problem. We have to make sure that every single wiring in the country meets the standard that ought to be. And we have not done so for a very long time, even our homes. It is also because we like postponing problems and dealing with symptoms and not the root cause. If you have substandard cables, which end up wiring and making them cause 75% of market fires, it's very easy for you to fix that problem if you are serious and want to deal with it. But as we know, we have not been that serious for a very long time. The cost is also enormous. And I was talking about a woman losing 60,000 earlier today. There's been some studies that suggest that one of the highest costs we've had is almost 80 million US dollars, which happened in 2013 in the Kumasi Central market. Imagine how many market women have lived their lives and having to suffer later on because they lost everything they had in this process. We have built KJTI and other markets in times past, and I hope it was actually rewired to the standards that we want them to be. My headache here is that the politician has been consistent in making promises without fixing them. What I intended to do was go back as far as 1994 and recall for you promises by various state agencies and government officials that we will fix this problem, and they never fix it. It is like flooding. We get these same promises. We change politicians, but for some reason, they are unable to fix the basic problems that they are supposed to fix. And sometimes you ask yourself, of what use are they to the people that they serve? I mean, there's a point where we say that people in the markets ought to do things better. They ought to improve their lives and also make sure that they do the right things. They don't have to cook in it. But it all comes down to standards. What are the standards we have set for in these markets? We have given them a recent promise that markets across the country will be upgraded. Winston, I'm convinced that will come the next 10 years if you and I can actually go into a gentleman's bet. Nothing may happen. When it's not tied to the fortunes of the politician, they hardly care about those situations. But these are also voters. It was because we were voters that after Odona, the massive promise of, oh yes, we will make sure that we fix all the wiring across the country. Today, have they started procurement? Are they in the ways of making that happen anytime soon? Or we are deferring it to the time that we see another major incident happen, and it connects to lives and properties being lost in this case. So I am not so optimistic because we've known there are studies upon studies. I mean, I've seen the repertoire of studies that's been put together by, I think there was a group in KNUST that did that work about how we can fix this problem, and government adopting some of these studies. Don't forget, some time ago, when we suspected arson was the biggest problem, we brought in external people to come and do the evaluation.
Exactly.
They gave us almost the same things that we have been told by our local academics and experts and the fire service about how to fix this problem. So one way or the other, the people with the competence and the resource, and there's this political scientist, he's Harold Laswell. He defines politics as who gets what, when, and how. The people with the competence to determine who gets what, when, and how have failed to ensure the right thing is done. So the people have taken a cue from it. And you heard those in Odona say that, no, don't worry, we can rebuild our own. Don't make it look like you are coming to rebuild it or redistribute to other people the things that you built again. When they rebuild on their own, they will repeat the same mistakes because it is not cost effective for you to buy more expensive cable and use it for the things that you have to use it for. The only way they will do it is when somebody is competent enough to deploy, like they deploy to homes to check the various things that they have to check, or like they deploy to other places, or they have standards in other places that they have always been checking. Like the way the fire service will come into this building looking for fire extinguishers and check other cars, and the police are misunderstanding. If we don't have those systems working, there is no way we will fix this problem. And it will be regular talk. People will lose millions. They will be devastated. Their lives will go from grace to grass in a matter of days, and we will come back with the same conversation. So this morning, if it is the commitment of the Honourable Member of Parliament, who competently speaks for government, that they are going to fix the problem, at least we would have been willing to hear, we'll fix it by September next year, so that we can hold them tightly to it. Because we've known that when governments mean business, they know how to give the promises. And they know how to stick to those promises when it's tied to their electoral fortunes. So those are the things that I think we should be hearing.
Okay.
If you're not getting that kind of, forgive me, but assurance that is tied to timelines that we mean business, it's just almost like the person who suffered the fire outbreak knows. And the Kumasi Central Market one happened some time ago. There's a woman who said, oh, this is the third time there's been these fires here. They promised they'll build it, but we know they will not do it. So we do it on our own. And it happens again. So it's as if they're taking insurance on their own to make sure that they consistently have to live and do what's right.
Okay.
At some point in time, the business as usual must change.
Well, at some point in time, it must change.
Well,
yes,
I
briefly
agree
before
with you
yes.
that business as usual must change.
Yes.
And, I'm sure that you are aware that government is embarked on a program of rebuilding some of our markets. I can speak to Takoradi Market Circle and the Kumasi Central Market, for instance, that are being redeveloped completely. Okay, the NDC did the KGTR market.
Yeah.
There's the Central Market is being done. Market Circle, people have been moved out. They're still moving. It's going to be demolished and redone. But you make a point that when the Odona fire occurred, promises were made that rewiring was going to be done. And you ask a question as to whether procurement has commenced. Of course, you need a budget to do procurement. Of course, you can't just go and do procurement. In any event, when did the fire at Odona occur? It was only about 2-3 weeks ago. And so, is it your expectation that immediately thereafter, government will provide a budget to enable that exercise to take place? Truth of the matter is that we as a country, we have a limitation in terms of funding. Okay? And so if there's a fire at Odona, and obviously that market in the state that it is needs some touching, redevelopment, then government has to look for the funding to do the redevelopment.
But is this a priority?
And well,
mostly,
of course,
we know what
I mean,
government prioritizes and how it gets money to do it. Because that's the difference.
Whatever it is that you categorize as priority or otherwise would require funding.
No doubt about it.
Yes, and so I'm saying that to the extent that it's a commercial center and it cannot be left to sit there as it is, government has to find the money to do it.
When is that
and
going
so,
to happen?
And so, well, I know that the budget that was approved the last time was for only 3 months, and that in March we're going to get a new budget. So let's wait and see what it is that government will make the provision for or not in the next budget before we can begin to make judgment calls on whether it's a priority or not. Because until then...
But I think, I mean, Raymond's issue also that sometimes promises have been made, we are going to do this, and then when the budget is read, you know, the allocations you are expecting, you don't find them in there. So they tell you, we will do this, we'll do that, we'll do that. This wouldn't be the first time government has talked about,
but
you know, rewiring.
See, Winston,
yes.
No, I agree. And governments have plans to do everything. But has it got the resources to do everything?
So you prioritize.
Absolutely. So you have to prioritize. And so
that's why I asked whether this was a priority.
Yes,
I mean,
of course. I mean, sitting here, I wouldn't be able to confirm whether it's a priority or not. But like I said, I know that there's a program to redevelop some of our markets. I can speak to the Kumasi Central Market. I can speak to Takoradi Market Circle. I can speak to the commitment of government to do the second D1. because that's directly, affecting my constituency. So I can speak to this sitting here. Odona has just happened. His Excellency the President went there, made commitments, and I expect that they would work on it.
Actually, this recent one is the 11th in the last decade that there's been fire outbreaks at Odona. 11th.
Well,
And each
I'm
of
not
them, I'm
privy to
sure,
those statistics
really,
and,
has had some. I mean, see, it's not just about this government, and that's how important this is.
Yeah,
If
I agree.
There has been 11 different incidents in one area, and all of them came with different promises. But the general thinking was that we will make sure that this does not recur, and yet it happens again. There's as a point that we have to stop saying that we will do it and just do it. That's my point here.
Okay.
No, I agree with you.
Now,
but
guys, please hold on.
Sure.
I need to get our listeners into the conversation. They need to tell us also what they make of all of this and whether the assurances that they get from government, whether they believe it's going to be happening or not. So the phone lines are activated now on 0302 216 541. 0302 216 541 and then 055 1111 997. You've heard from Raymond, you've heard from Honorable Mensah talking about the market fires. This is not the first time we're talking about market fires. Do you think that as a people we're committed to ending market fires? And what do you think we should be doing differently than what we're currently doing? So give us a call now, and let me start off in Adenta where Robert is. Robert, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Well, God is taking care of us. How about you?
By the same grace.
Great. Go ahead then.
Yes, you're talking about the market,
Sure.
and I was privileged in the last government to be part of a developmental effort.
Okay.
There were 9 markets in Accra supposed to be redeveloped. We had gone all the way to finish sensitization and everything and awarding to interested parties. This was supposed to be a public-private partnership. Designs are there. The women bought into it. Reallocation plans were done. Now, government changed. They asked us to continue, but down the line, interest has waned off. We have become like vultures. Only after it rains that we decide that we will build a house. Is there any way government can set up, and there are so many ministries and organizations under this government that is supposed to be for development. So how come they cannot put things like this under those sectors?
Okay.
You
so,
see?
So let me just get a few clarifications here. So which year did you start this designing?
Oh, we started back in 2012.
2012.
We've gone through all the tendering processes.
Okay.
We've gone to we worked with the PID.
So were contracts awarded?
No, we were at that stage of awarding contracts. You see, before you can award under the PPP program, you have to go and meet a panel and defend the whole project. There are several times you meet the panel for approval, approval.
When governments change, you say that you were told to continue and then interest went down. Who told you to continue?
Well, we were doing the first one under the Accra mayor.
Okay.
Honorable Kovanda for me.
So the new mayor told you to continue.
Then the new mayor came in and asked us to continue.
Okay.
The whole process went on for about 6 months, 1 year. Somehow, the interest went off. Okay?
Okay.
And what I'm saying is that when you have done so much work and engaged transaction advisors, who up to now we owe. Okay. All these years, we owe them because they were going to be paid part of their fees by the investors.
Okay.
It was more or less a success fee.
Thank you very, very much, Robert from Adenta, for joining us. Joseph Ajiman is in Tema, Community 9. Joseph, good morning.
Good morning, Kawanson. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well by the grace of God. How about you?
Oh, I'm also doing well.
Great. Share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, I have 2 issues for now.
Okay.
One is prevention measures. I think the authorities supposed to have designed the market in such a way that even if fire starts now, they can quench it within the shortest possible time. But looking at the designs of the market and the way people are moving around, it's very difficult. The wiring, I mean, you can't get space, and even they should let them get the fire safety and rules and regulations to be abided by. That's first one. Second one, our politicians find things difficult, but they seem to be promising. Supposing you have a shop, you don't know how much you have enduring the fire, how much was consumed by the fire. So if somebody comes that I've lost this number of items or this amount of money, which is very difficult for whoever is ready to pay, and the person cannot pay because somebody is looking for money, the person will come out with a huge amount. Meanwhile, the person is not having those stuff in the stores.
Thank you very much, Joseph Ajaman. Lukman is at Teshinunga. Good morning, Lukman.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, Lukman, kindly reduce the volume on your radio set so we can hear.
My radio is off.
Okay, then go ahead.
Yeah. My suggestion is that, the fires in the market cannot be stopped, but it can be minimized. The other thing is that the way our market has been structured is very wrong. So what they should do is they should make sure that every store should have fire extinguisher. And in the next week, they should have market guards that will be checking the market throughout the night once the day break. So in case there's a little fire, they will get it earlier.
Thank you very much, Lukman. Joseph is in Takrady. Good morning, Joseph.
Good morning.
Azena Tedene. Nice one. Go ahead.
Okay. I listened to Honorable Bobo.
Mesa, yes, Mesa.
He talked about Market Circle. They say Market Circle was going to start somewhere September. I live in Takrady. I have not seen any sign. He talked about people moving out. There are still people in there. There's no sign of any construction. So you realize that at the end of the day, after voting, this thing will go back because they were doing this for vote.
Oh, how do you know they were doing it for votes?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So you don't believe that the promises that are being made concerning the markets will be fulfilled?
At least September. They talked about September. We are in December. I'm not seeing any sign.
But haven't you seen the new site that is being prepared behind Ahimfie Hotel?
Boss, I am not seeing anything.
But have you seen that new site?
I have seen that new site.
You've seen preparations going on there?
Preparation, that site, but I have not seen any movement because September, and we are in how many months now?
Okay.
We have to do with time.
Okay.
We have to go by our time.
Thank you very much for joining us. Joseph all the way from Takrady. Ima from Kolebu, good morning.
Good morning, Winston.
Yes, Ima, go ahead.
Yes, this problem has been a canker in the nation. You know what? Winston, set the ball right. Do we have standards in this country? When have we heard that a shopping mall has caught fire? Because everything is in place. But when the fire in the market, we don't do diligence to probe into what happens. And you see politicians coming to put up anything. So that is what is going to happen. So maybe there should be standard planning so that these things do not occur. 2, do we tell the traders to do insurance against any eventuality? So let's not be scratching. Let's go into details. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us, Ima. Kenneth is in North Kaneshie. Good morning, Kenneth. Hello, Kenneth. Yeah, good morning, Kenneth. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Great. Share your thoughts with us.
You may not be happy about what I'm coming to say, but I clearly blame this on the politician and the media. I think when these politicians come up with whatever plan they have, I say more media for no more massage or more. You don't hold them with what they have. Like someone said, we need timeline to get these things done. Look at what the MP.
But the person who said we need timelines is my colleague Raymond Akwa, still in the media.
I'm coming. Let me make my point quickly. Like I'm saying, he made the point all right, but are we following up? Like I'm saying, what.
Hello, Kenneth.
In line and things that is about to happen.
Oh, no. The line just got bad. Sorry about that, Kenneth. The line just got bad. Please try and reach us again. I would want to hear from you, on holding politicians accountable. I think we need to go for some few messages. We'll certainly continue with the conversation. Also, we're talking about the Public Universities Bill. It's in Parliament. It's been suspended now, but UTAG is calling for a withdrawal for further consultations. Can't we do that? Stay with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
It's a new day. I want you to first think big, not small. Think of how great we can be when we work together. Together, we can ensure that our hard work will provide